Born into the heart of darkness, the children of cartel bosses live under a shadow they never chose. From Edgar Guzman Lopez, gunned down with 500 bullets, and his father covered a city with flowers for his funeral, to Javier Arellano Felix, now serving a life sentence, being a cartel boss's child comes with a chilling price. These tragic stories reveal how even wealth and power couldn't shield them from their disturbing fate. Edgar Guzman Lopez. On May 10, 2008, the municipality of Culiacan ran out of roses to celebrate the mothers of Sinaloa. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman left them without flowers because they were used for his son's funeral. Guzman Lopez killed by 500 shots 2 days before in a shopping center. Local chronicles point out that more than 500 shots were fired at the scene, and a bazooka was also used. One of those executed was Edgar Guzman Lopez, son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman Loera. The young man was accompanied by his cousins, Cesar Ariel Loera and Arturo Meza Cazares, son of Blanca Margarita Cazares, alias La Empresa, who also died in the attack. But another version of the murder of Edgar Guzman pointed out that it was the same assassins of Chapo who murdered the son of the capo due to a mix-up. The third version indicated that El Chapo had asked his compadre to take care of a young man nicknamed El Guacho, but the hitmen had made a mistake and confused Guzman Lopez with their objective. Edgar Guzman was the son of El Chapo, and his second wife, Griselda Lopez Perez. He was also the older brother of Ovidio Guzman, who was being held in the Altiplano prison. After the death of Edgar Guzman, the sadness of El Chapo was so great that he ordered to buy all the roses in Culiacan for the burial, consolidating this act as a historical fact. The next one on our list is Vicente Carrillo Leyva. Vicente Carrillo. Leyva was warned by his infamous father, Amado Carrillo Fuentes, not to go into the family business, but he couldn't resist, and was eventually arrested for his crimes in 2009. The Leyva family isn't a family of doctors, lawyers, engineers, or policemen. Rather, they're all part of the business of illegal drugs, and specifically, the notoriously brutal Juarez cartel. Vicente Carrillo Leyva led a very privileged life. The press had a term for children like him, narco juniors, who were the heirs of the cartels of their grandparents and parents. And Vicente Carrillo Leyva was no different from any other narco junior. He studied electrical engineering at the best universities in Spain and Switzerland. After his father's death in 1997, thanks to botched plastic surgery, Vicente Carrillo Leyva went into the family business, in a manner of speaking. Leyva began laundering money from his father's cartels, a sort of cleaning up of his father's affairs. Within a matter of months, he recovered more than $7 million, including more than $400,000 from one house alone. His world became a web of constant paranoia as rival cartel leaders wanted him eliminated, and law enforcement hunted him down for his involvement in the drug empire. Vicente's life was a terrifying game of survival, always on the run, watching his back. The pressure intensified as his father's legacy cast a long shadow over him. His every move was followed by deadly threats from rivals eager to seize control of the drug trade. Vicente Carrillo Leyva seemed to vanish off the face of the earth. Naturally, as happened with his father, speculation buzzed about what might have happened to him, until his fate was revealed. Leyva hardly looked like a cartel boss when he was arrested in April 2009, sporting stylish glasses and wearing Abercrombie & Fitch. The next one is the son of Tijuana cartel's leader, Fernando Sanchez Arellano. On June 23, 2014, as Mexico's national team battled Croatia in a crucial World Cup match, federal agents were carrying on a big mission in Tijuana. Inside, dressed in a Mexico jersey, with his face painted, was Luis Fernando Sanchez Arellano, also known as El Ingeniero or El Alineador, of the Arellano Felix organization, commonly referred to as the Tijuana Cartel. When federal forces intercepted him, he was dining with his family and driving a gray Pathfinder SUV. Despite trying to conceal his identity by initially using the alias Fernando Canales Villanueva, Sanchez Arellano was quickly recognized, leading to a tense moment where he attempted to bribe the soldiers, offering them thousands of dollars in exchange for his release. His capture during the second half of the game marked the symbolic end of one of Mexico's most elusive cartel figures. Fernando learned the cartel trade from his uncles. His brutal tactics made the Tijuana cartel one of the most feared criminal organizations during its peak. From 2008 to 2010, Tijuana was engulfed in violence as the two factions battled for control, leading to a wave of kidnappings, murders, and public displays of brutality. After his arrest in 2014, Luis Fernando Sanchez Arellano was sentenced to 22 years in a Mexican federal prison for organized crime and drug trafficking. Cartel bosses often leave behind a dangerous legacy, one that can ripple through generations. To prove this, our list continues to El Menchito. son of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, became a significant figure within the powerful Jalisco New Generation cartel. Between 2007 and 2017, Oseguera Gonzalez, 34, led an international drug trafficking organization responsible for importing large quantities of methamphetamine and cocaine from Mexico into the United States. The CJN is one of the most dangerous drug cartels in Mexico. Oseguera Gonzalez personally used firearms, destructive devices, murder, and kidnapping to control the drug trafficking organization. Oseguera Gonzalez also ordered his subordinates to shoot down a Mexican military helicopter so that he could escape capture by Mexican law enforcement. El Menchito used extreme violence to grow and control the cartel. For example, when 5 men owed Oseguera Gonzalez money for drugs in the United States, Oseguera Gonzalez violently killed all 5 men. On another occasion, the defendant shot one of his drivers in the head at close range. In an intercepted message, Oseguera Gonzalez also described having 13 people tied up, one of whom he decided to release only after the man agreed to make fentanyl pills for Oseguera Gonzalez. His hitmen, which he called the Special Forces of the High Command, used the weapons to protect him and help him escape capture by Mexican authorities multiple times. Less than 2 months after escaping capture, Oseguera Gonzalez was arrested in Jalisco, Mexico. When he was surrounded by soldiers and police, he brandished an assault weapon and grenade launcher, demanding to be released because he was a member of the CJN. He faces a mandatory minimum penalty of 40 years in prison and a statutory maximum penalty of life plus 30 years in prison. A sentencing hearing is scheduled for Jan 10, 2025. Moving forward, we have Ovidio Guzman Lopez. As the son of infamous drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, Ovidio faced intense pressure from an early age. Growing up in a dangerous and criminal environment, he struggled with the weight of his father's legacy. Constantly under threat from rival cartels and law enforcement, Ovidio had few options but to follow in his father's footsteps. He was arrested by Mexican authorities in 2019. At least 29 people were killed during the bloody operation to arrest him. Guzman Lopez, nicknamed the Mouse, was extracted by helicopter and flown to the capital before being taken to a maximum security federal prison. He was accused of leading a faction of his father's notorious Sinaloa cartel. The U.S. had put out a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to his arrest or conviction, as well as that of 3 of his brothers, who are also thought to have kept their positions of command in the group. His father, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, is serving a life sentence in the U.S. after being found guilty in 2019 of drug trafficking and money laundering. His trial revealed some of the brutal details of how Mexico's drug cartels operate. His arrest led to a violent confrontation known as the Battle of Culiacan, where cartel gunmen forced the government to release him. Furious gang members set up roadblocks, set fire to dozens of vehicles, and attacked planes at a local airport. 2 Mexican Air Force aircraft were forced to make emergency landings after they were hit by gunfire from the cartel, Defense Minister Sandoval said. Helicopter gunships were deployed from the authorities to support the ground operation. Sometimes a son must bear the burden of his father's sins, and this is true. Juan Jose Esparragoza Monzon. Esparragoza El Negro was the 45-year-old son of Juan Jose Esparragoza Moreno, alias El Azul, a top leader of the Sinaloa gang, along with Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. He was actively involved in the cartel for over 20 years. His life revolved around the attempts to take control of parts of the cartel and has been full of betrayals, arrests, and threats from rival factions within the Sinaloa cartel. The Anti-Narcotics Division within Mexico's federal police force arrested El Negro on January 19, 2017 in Culiacan, Sinaloa. He was one of the top 122 individuals the Peña Nieto administration identified as priorities to capture. Mexican National Security Commissioner Renato Sales said the anti-drug squad of the country's federal police force captured Monzon, and that he is likely responsible for coordinating a drug distribution network, and is also likely responsible for administering financial resources of a criminal organization. Monzon is also suspected of investing those financial resources in purchasing property in the states of Baja California Sur, Jalisco, Sinaloa, and Querétaro. Monzon was accused of generating violence in the border cities of Mexicali and Tijuana. The next one on our list is Osiel Cardenas Jr., son of Osiel Cardenas Guillen. Gulf Cartel, Osiel Jr., has tried to maintain a low profile, but has faced multiple arrests, including one in the U.S. His father's violent reign as head of the Gulf Cartel made him a target of law enforcement and enemies, living with the constant threat of violence. Brownsville police arrested Cardenas Jr. around 2 a.m. on March 15, 2015, in the parking lot of the Sky Bar and Lounge. He is accused of waving a gun around the bar, displaying a Cameron County District Attorney's badge, and threatening threatening patrons with arrest if they didn't leave the premises. Police charged Cardenas Jr. with public intoxication, false report to a police officer, and unlawful carrying of a weapon. On May 18, 2015, Cardenas was convicted of attempting to smuggle ammunition into Matamoros. According to court documents, Cardenas and others attempted to purchase 5 AK-47 type rifles and 5 AR-15 type rifles. The undercover operation took place in a Brownsville store parking lot. Cardenas had instructed another individual to cross into Mexico to pick up the $15,000 for the weapons and to inform him when the weapons transaction had been completed. Cardenas further admitted he committed the crime while on supervised release for a previous felony. You must be familiar with El Mayo. Now we're going to tell you about his son, Vicente Zambada Niebla. Do you know the man who was once one of the heirs to the Sinaloa cartel empire is now behind bars? Few voices like Vicente Zambada Niebla's have been instrumental in helping the United States understand Mexican drug trafficking. El Vicentillo, as he is known, went from being one of the most powerful heirs to the Sinaloa cartel to a key figure in the U.S. authorities' account of the criminal structure. Zambada Niebla admitted to organizing the trafficking of at least 5 kilos of cocaine and 1 kilo of heroin. The plea deal also required him not to resist U.S. authorities confiscating $1.373 million in assets, a fortune he illegally obtained by coordinating drug shipments to the United States for the empire run by his father and El Chapo from Sinaloa. By agreeing to those terms, Zambada Niebla avoided sitting in the dock at trial. The deal meant he avoided life in prison but faced a minimum sentence of 10 years. In May 2019, Judge Castillo sentenced him to 15 years for his role within the Sinaloa cartel between 1996 and 2008. Another one on our list is Rodolfo Carrillo Fuentes. Rodolfo Carrillo Fuentes was the younger brother of Amado Carrillo Fuentes and Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, and he was nicknamed El Niño de Oro, meaning the Golden Boy. After the death of Amado and Vicente's takeover of the cartel, Vicente promoted Rodolfo to become the man in charge of negotiating with other cartels. In 2003, he assisted him with his attempted takedown of the Gulf Cartel, but the 2003 Nuevo León raids failed, and Rodolfillo angrily stormed out of a meeting with El Chapo after insulting his soldiers and his plans for a federation. Rodolfo was hostile towards El Chapo, the boss of the Sinaloa cartel, and he opposed his idea of leading a federation of drug cartels in Mexico. Did you know that the last of the Arellano Felix brothers met a grim fate? Eduardo Arellano Felix. Eduardo Arellano Felix, who acted as the chief financial officer of the notorious Mexican drug cartel that bears his family name, was sentenced today in federal court to 15 years in prison for laundering tens of millions of dollars in illicit drug proceeds. Arellano Felix is the last of 4 brothers to be targeted by U.S. prosecutors for leading what was once among the world's most violent and powerful multinational drug trafficking organizations. He pleaded guilty in May to money laundering and conspiracy charges. According to court documents, he moved hundreds of tons of cocaine and marijuana from Mexico and Colombia into the U.S. and made hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. The cartel terrorized the southwest border and beyond with executions, torture, beheadings, kidnappings, and bribes to law enforcement, military personnel, and government officials. Arellano Felix was first indicted in 1998, along with his brothers, on drug conspiracy charges. Then in 2002, prosecutors added charges of racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to distribute and import marijuana and cocaine in a subsequent indictment. He was arrested by Mexican authorities in Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, on October 25, 2008. A final order of extradition to the United States was granted in 2010. Our list continues to Vicente Carrillo Fuentes. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes took over control of the Juarez cartel after his brother died during botched plastic surgery in 1997. His older brother Amado, who was known as Lord of the Skies for his knack of smuggling large quantities of drugs in his private fleet of airplanes. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes built up a complex financial structure to launder the proceeds from the cartel's drug trafficking. But during his time at the helm, the Juarez cartel entered into a bloody rivalry with the Sinaloa cartel, led by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The battle with its rivals from Sinaloa left the Juarez cartel seriously weakened, but it is still thought to be behind a large number of murders in its stronghold in Ciudad Juarez. Thousands of people were murdered in turf wars between rival cartels. The Juarez cartel has lost much of its power since Vicente Carrillo Fuentes was arrested in 2014. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, who was known as the Viceroy, was found guilty of drug trafficking and organized crime. A court in Mexico has sentenced the former leader of one of the country's biggest drug trafficking cartels to 28 years in jail. The next one on our list is El Mayito Gordo. A decade ago, Mayito Gordo was an heir to his father's throne. Like the sons of El Chapo, he was a narco junior, a princeling who grew up flaunting inherited wealth and power, posting pictures on Instagram of flashy cars, expensive watches, and other trappings of the luxurious lifestyle he enjoyed as a wanted fugitive in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa. His life took a tragic turn when he was captured in Mexico in 2014. Sinaloa cartel leader Ismael Zambada Imperial, aka Mayito Gordo, pleaded guilty in federal court today to drug trafficking charges following his extradition to the Southern District of California in December 2019. He also agreed to forfeit $5 million in drug trafficking proceeds. Zambada Imperial accepted responsibility that he organized the transportation and distribution of thousands of kilograms of controlled substances, including cocaine, heroin, and marijuana for importation from Mexico into the United States. While addressing the court, Zambada Imperial said, "With my heart in my hand, I ask society for forgiveness for my actions." He apologized to the judge for his past behavior and to his family for being absent from their lives while serving time in prison. His words must have made you feel. Our list continues to Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa. Son of a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel, Arechiga Gamboa was known for exuberant social media posts, purporting to show him posing with expensive clothes, jewelry, and luxury cars. In 2015, Arechiga Gamboa pleaded guilty in a U.S. court to helping bring tons of cocaine and marijuana to the United States from Mexico, and ordered and participated in violence against cartel rivals. He said in a plea agreement with prosecutors that he was a high-ranking member responsible for a number of aspects of the cartel's operations. He was sentenced in the United States for conspiracy to import a controlled substance. He vanished from federal parole supervision in San Diego and was found murdered in Mexico alongside his sister and brother-in-law in 2020. The bodies of Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, known as El Chino Antrax, his sister Ada Jimena Arechiga Gamboa, and her husband Juan Garcia were discovered in Ada's BMW, abandoned on a dirt road in Culiacan. All three were found wrapped in blankets, according to the Associated Press. When the bodies were first discovered, a leaked photograph showed a man who appeared to be Arechiga. His family, along with Mexico's federal prosecutorial agency and U.S. authorities, confirmed it was the notorious cartel enforcer's dead body. The next one on our list is Omar Trevino Morales. Los Zetas was founded by members of an elite Mexican army unit who deserted their posts. They first worked as enforcers, protecting the drug trafficking operations of the Gulf Cartel in the late 1990s. Later, the group broke away and formed its own territorial paramilitary cartel that became notorious for its brutality. Los Zetas is thought to be behind the massacre of 72 Central American migrants who turned down jobs as hitmen in 2010, as well as a 2011 arson attack on a Monterrey casino in which 52 people died. In 2015, Mexican police arrested Omar Trevino Morales, leader of Los Zetas, one of the country's largest and most dangerous drug cartels. He was arrested in a luxury home without a shot being fired. Mexican authorities had offered a reward of 30 million pesos for the capture of Trevino Morales on organized crime and weapons charges. In the U.S., he was wanted for drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, and murder, and carried a bounty of $5 million US. Now let's see what happened to Jorge Eduardo Costilla Sanchez Jr. Also known as El Cos, Costilla Sanchez is believed to be the current leader of the former Ociel Cardenas Guillen organization in Mexico. The Gulf Cartel is responsible for the importation and distribution of thousands of kilograms of cocaine and marijuana into the United States annually. Cardenas Guillen was arrested in March 2003 and is currently incarcerated in Mexico. Costilla Sanchez is one of several high-ranking members of the Gulf Cartel who has been indicted in the United States for drug trafficking activities. Costilla Sanchez has also been indicted for threatening U.S. law enforcement officials in November 1999. In that incident, FBI and DEA agents in Mexico were forcibly stopped at gunpoint by a group of heavily armed men, allegedly including Cardenas Guillen, Costilla Sanchez, and other key members of the Gulf Cartel. Costilla Sanchez and the other cartel members were said to have pointed AK-47 machine guns at the U.S. federal agents and threatened to kill them. Moving forward, we have Javier Arellano Felix. The Tijuana cartel used to be one of the largest Mexican drug cartels. It is well known for its employment of enforcers recruited from Mexican and San Diego street gangs. In addition to enforcers, many Latin American street gangsters were trained to become assassins in the cartel, which has a reputation for extreme brutality and violence. Francisco Javier Arellano Felix was a Mexican drug lord who, alongside his brothers, founded and led the Tijuana cartel until his capture by the United States Coast Guard Guard on August 16, 2006. Arellano Felix was brought into the United States Coast Guard Sector San Diego by a Coast Guard, Cutter Petrel, commanded by Master Chief Petty Officer M. Martin. The Drug Enforcement Administration had received a tip about his whereabouts. A $5 million bounty had been offered for his capture, but the information leading to his capture was not from someone seeking the reward. On November 5, 2007, he was sentenced to life in prison after pleading guilty in September 2007 to running a criminal enterprise and laundering money. The next person on our list faced a tragic end, his life cut short by the very world they were deeply entangled in. Raul Meza Torres. Born on the 11th of December, Raul Meza Torres, commonly referred to by his alias LM6, was a Mexican suspected drug lord and high-ranking leader of the Sinaloa Cartel. He was the right-hand man of Javier Torres Felix, the former leading operator of Ismael El Mayo Zambada, one of Mexico's most wanted drug lords. In 1997, he was arrested with several of his accomplices in Cancun in possession of 348 kilograms of Colombian cocaine. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but was released in 1998 for inconsistencies in the case. On Tuesday, the 27th of March 2007, Meza Ontiveros was killed in Culiacan. The Sinaloa Ministerial Police stated that they did not have official information about how Meza Ontiveros died. They were called to a location in the Las Quintas neighborhood because they were notified of a shootout between armed suspects. When they arrived at the scene, the shootout had ended, but they were told that 3 armed assailants had taken a wounded man, Meza Ontiveros, to a private clinic. The police headed to the clinic but were impeded entry by Meza Ontiveros' family. The clinic personnel confirmed that Meza Ontiveros was killed. Our list continues to Adrian Gomez Gonzalez. Adrian Gomez Gonzalez lived a life deeply entangled with the Sinaloa cartel's criminal activities. Being the son of a high-ranking cartel member, he inherited a dangerous legacy. Gomez worked as a lieutenant for Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo during the 1970s and 1980s. When Felix Gallardo was arrested in 1989, his old organization, the Guadalajara Cartel, broke up into 2 factions: the Tijuana Cartel led by his nephews, the Arellano Felix brothers, and the Sinaloa Cartel, run by former Lieutenants Hector Luis Palma Salazar, Adrian Gomez Gonzalez, Ismael Zambada Garcia, and Joaquin Guzman Loera. His tragic fate was sealed as he rose through the ranks, becoming heavily involved in international drug trafficking. In 2021, his luck ran out when he was arrested. Law enforcement agencies tracked his activities across borders, revealing his key role in moving large quantities of narcotics. Hector Luis Palma Salazar Jr. Commonly known as El Güero Palma, Hector Luis Palma Salazar Jr. is a Mexican former drug trafficker and leader of the Sinaloa Cartel alongside Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. After his boss, Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, ordered the brutal murder of his family, Palma set out to avenge them. In 1978, Palma was arrested in Arizona for drug trafficking and sentenced to 8 years in a U.S. prison. Upon his release, he discovered that his wife, Guadalupe Leia Serrano, had run off with Clavel and taken her and Palma's 2 children. Palma executed Gallardo's lawyer and Clavel's 3 children. Clavel would later be arrested and soon be murdered in jail by an inmate on Palma's orders. Palma was arrested on June 23, 1995, after a 12-seat Lear jet on which he was flying to attend a wedding party crash-landed. After serving 19 years in the Atwater Federal Prison, Palma was extradited to Mexico in June 2016, where he was charged with a double murder of police officers in Nayarit in 1995. He is currently incarcerated at the Altiplano prison near Mexico City. The lives of cartel bosses' children are filled with danger and tragedy, as we've seen throughout this list. Can any of them truly escape their family's dark past, or are they doomed to repeat their parents' mistakes? Share your thoughts in the comments, and click the card on screen for more spine-chilling stories. Stay safe and see you in the next video.